Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Casey Tierney. I am on the investment team here at the LegalTech Fund, and I am joined by one of our founders, Sumeet from LighthouseAI. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Casey. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to dive in to all things Lighthouse AI. Before we do that, though, we do like to kick things off with a little bit more fun questions. So before we get into it, I guess if you weren't in your current industry, what industry do you think you'd be working in?
That's a really good question. And actually how I got into this industry on accident was legal. I always thought myself to be a lawyer. And so I had legal internships in college, which is actually how I stumbled across this job. So if not for this, I would probably stuck with the legal path.
Awesome. And what's a fun fact or two that would make somebody kind of think, oh, wow, really?
Let's see. In my 20s, I lived in 6 different states, including Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And I have a twin sister who just had a baby maybe 6 months ago. So very exciting
Oh,
stuff.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. What was it like growing up as a twin?
It was actually really fun. It's a built-in best friend, and
Yeah.
continue to stay close. So it's good for sure.
Do you have the telepathy?
We have a party trick, but that's pretty much it.
Cool. And then last one before we jump into more of Lighthouse. If you could be anywhere in the world, no restrictions right now, where would you be?
Let's see. I love the city of Miami, which is why I loved attending your guys' conferences. Um, but other than that, maybe something like Spain, or I've never been there and always wanted to visit.
Yeah, same. I've always wanted to go, but haven't. So maybe next time we'll do this from
For
Madrid.
sure. Sounds good.
Okay, so let's dive into Lighthouse AI. Would love to hear kind of the origin story and what you all are up to today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier. I found this very niche space, which is drug distribution compliance, actually through an internship for a legal firm. And so the lawyer had just left his legal firm when I asked him for an internship to take over his dad's drug distribution company. And so, long story short, stayed with him for about 5 years, and then started the predecessor to Lighthouse AI about 10 years ago in October of 15. Just taking all the learnings I had from the internship and about the industry and my network, and just applied it to building a services company. Ran the service company for about 5 years, and then right at the end of 2020, beginning 2021, realized there's just massive opportunity to automate what's historically very complex, painful, but really mission critical problem for the industry, with trillions of dollars of annual revenue. And so that's pretty much the journey we've been on. Started building the technology in 2021, released the product in 2023, subsequently very quickly after that raised VC funding, including with the LegalTech Fund. So appreciate your guys' support. And so we're continuing on the path.
Awesome. Definitely been a long time of you in the space then, and I really like sort of the transition from services to software. Not everybody is able to do that successfully, but so far it looks like you all have. So congrats.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And one thing that's on top of mind kind of for everybody these days, startups and investors, is of course the rise of generative and agentic AI. Curious to get your perspective on, if other AI native platforms are a threat to Lighthouse AI.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something that we come up against often now, and so I actually consider myself really very lucky, because for the last 3 going on 4 years, we've been using people to create to really structure this unstructured space, which is regulatory compliance for drug and device industry. It's hard for AI native platforms to come into our space because of 2 reasons. The first one is simply because the data isn't memorialized anywhere. There's no data books to scrap, right? You have the laws and the regulations that are published, but the last 20% is actually like 80 percent of the problem, like following Pareto's principle, I guess. Quick example is, in Nevada, if you're a drug manufacturer not in Nevada, right, and a non-resident, and you're looking to sell drugs into the state of Nevada, a quick nuance that I like to point out is that you actually apply for a drug distributor license, not for a manufacturer license. And the reason for that is just simply because of how of board policy, which again isn't memorialized anywhere. It's not like, oh, manufacturers must apply for drug distributors. It's simply the way that they interpret the definition of wholesale drug distribution, which is the sale or distribution of drugs in the state. And so just a quick nuance on why this data isn't readily available and why I consider myself very lucky to have to be in the space right now with the rise of agentic AI, because we have that proprietary data set and proprietary ontologies. And just another quick example is that same words may be used with different meanings. So like a central fill pharmacy in one state could be the entity that is doing the data entry and everything but dispensing. But in another state, central fill pharmacy is actually the dispensing site. So where the third party pharmacy that the prescriptions get sent to. So just two quick examples on how and why we think we're positioned to be the dominant force in agentic AI for compliance in pharma and pharmacy.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, it sounds like, okay, there's some portion of this stuff that is publicly available, but then there's a lot of stuff that's not publicly available that you've sort of built over, all the experience that you have. But even on top of that, there's like nuance on top of what is available and not available, of like how it actually gets like translated.
Exactly. Yep.
Makes sense. So can you illustrate for us some of the ROI and impact that Lighthouse AI generates for your companies and customers that are sort of navigating this super complex environment?
Yeah, for sure. For that, probably my favorite example is our very first, enterprise customer for Lighthouse AI. Within 45 days of our releasing the product, we had a 6-figure ACV contract signed with
Wow.
a $1 billion plus company, and the reason was because 9 months prior to us releasing the software in April of 23, it was September of 22 or so. This company had bought a $300 million tuck-in acquisition, and so long story short, they're actually based in Florida. And so long story short, when they filed to do the change of ownership, somebody bungled the paperwork, the wrong paperwork was filed, and that $300 million company came to a grinding halt for almost 6 weeks because of a single, maybe 7-page application that wasn't properly filed. So, when I say it's mission critical, this work, state licensing and compliance, is absolutely mission critical because it literally grants the authority to transact business, whether you're selling pharmaceuticals, dispensing pharmaceuticals, shipping pharmaceuticals. Literally trillions of dollars of annual revenue depend on this specific problem. And so that's a quick, so risk mitigation in terms of revenue loss and fines and fees all get rolled up into that. But then also because we're able to automate so much of what has been a historically manual process, human brain is doing a one-to-one, computation. We are able to do a one-to-many effectively in real time, right? So for somebody to understand what their requirements are across 50 states, if you go to a person or a consulting company, it takes 2 to 4 weeks, costs $8,000 to $50,000. Our software can do it in less than an hour, and it costs us about 5 cents of compute. So incredible leverage on what do I need to do, and we're basically the only solution because we have those two inputs into what you need to do, which is the facility attributes and the regulatory framework. These things are always changing, and so because our engine is always running, we're also able to dynamically update that assessment, and that's just something that nobody else can offer today.
That's great. So it sounds like a lot of efficiency gains, but maybe even more than that, it's like this is not a nice to have. This
Right.
is like you must do this stuff correctly to be able to operate at all. And in companies of that scale, especially. 6 weeks is, I mean, even like a few days, I imagine would be like a serious disruption.
Yeah, it's the accuracy gains first, which protects revenue, and then that's like the softer ROI, and then the hard ROI is just the efficiency gains, like you said, and that's how we pretty quickly and easily justify the price of our software.
That actually leads me into something else I wanted to touch on. How does Lighthouse AI ensure sort of that data accuracy, security, making sure you're up to date on all of the changing regulations? Seems like a lot to manage.
Yeah. So from a security perspective, we're ISO 27001 certified. It's pretty much built into our DNA. We were certified, within a couple of months of our releasing the product. So it was very much built with that in mind. But from an accuracy perspective, a lot of it is experts, human in the loop, or I guess experts in the loop. We have hundreds of years of experience on our staff, with our background as a consulting company, former VPs at, Fortune 10 companies. We have former state regulators, we have attorneys, and we have a ton of industry veterans, whether they come from, the consulting side or whether they come from, our customer base. And so, over the last 4 years, really 10 years, I should say, we've cultivated a phenomenal team. And so and that's, another piece of our moat is not only are we able to create this data, but we're able to actively verify it and keep it up to date with these experts in the loop.
It sounds like a little bit rare that for a startup you would have that sort of talent bench. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's just a function of, doing this for 10 years, solving this problem first as a services company for 5 years, and now as a technology plus services company for the last, 4 going on 5 years.
Yeah, definitely got a head start there.
Yep.
Would love to dig in a little bit more too on if you could explain a little bit more of like the technical framework behind the compliance and how it integrates with other enterprise systems at these pharma companies.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of interesting. Pharma's a little bit slow, and government, legal tech, reg tech is also very slow. So you put them together and you kind of create a perfect disaster. What we found actually is companies don't really have a place where they keep this kind of data, right? There's an order management system, an ERP inventory system, but as it relates to compliance data, right? Personnel information, what products are at each facility, what activities are being performed at each facility. That type of data just doesn't exist anywhere. In fact, one of our other enterprise customers legitimately had to fly out their compliance team to their, 15 distributed sites to interview the designated representatives at each site to figure out what the heck was going on. Because it's that level of detail that powers Lighthouse and really drives the regulatory requirements and compliance requirements across these 50 states. And so we're kind of in a cool position where we operate not only as a system of record and source of truth for our customers, but also the execution layer. So it's kind of like a 1-2 punch, and they both each continue to drive each other, which really drives product stickiness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I hope at least a couple of the 15 site visits were in fun places. Maybe one was in Spain.
Yeah, I wish, but no, that's
That actually sounds awful. And it's awesome that you guys are kind of helping with that.
for sure.
Kind of as we wrap up here, you have been in sort of this life sciences space for a long time, compliance, pharma, all of that. What advice would you give to founders who are trying to innovate in this space alongside you?
Great question. I think more than any life science specific stuff, expect besides any life science specific stuff, I think the real name of the game right now is just this idea of agentic AI and generative AI, which is just completely disrupting industries and entire business cases. And so focusing on moat, I think for us is a huge is very critical and something that we keep top of mind on a pretty much daily basis. And I think that's something that founders would, it would behoove them to do the same. I guess for life science specific, I'm not sure if I have anything. The go to market can be really tricky to figure out.
Yeah.
Some of these companies are just so big that if you don't know exact buyer and who to look for and what you're selling and tighten the pitch, it can be a really tough sell. And those sales cycles are a little bit unforgiving. And so, what we've done is we've done a lot of work on our, customer mapping, right? We have it down by, business model, by we have 4 different striations on sizing and not only business model, but also activities, product portfolio, and all that stuff. And so that kind of dictates what departments each company has and the folks in charge of, these compliance requirements at each. So it's a lot of getting to know your customer and agentic AI, to put it concisely.
That's awesome. And I think that definitely resonates across many different industries, right? With all the new technology out there, moat is going to become even more important, and it may look different than it did a couple of years ago. And so definitely keeping an eye on that. And
For sure.
then anyone going into the enterprise, I'm sure, probably feels your pain on big companies, who's making the decision, how to get to them. And unfortunately, it's not even consistent across companies either. So I think that mapping that you mentioned is super smart.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been
And
a
then,
experience.
yeah. And then I would also love to touch on too, as we wrap up, how have you been thinking about sort of your capital strategy and when you might be going out for your next raise?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. We actually are going to be going out in the next couple of months. We're putting some early materials together, pitch deck and such. And so we're thinking about probably after Labor Day, we'll be raising our Series A, anywhere from 5 to 10 million or so, to continue our growth path. We've been fortunate enough to keep our fundamentals in place. So there is a line for us to achieve profitability without adding adding any additional investor dollars. But we have a lot of big plans and clear path to building a big business. And so we're excited to continue raising and figuring out what's next.
That's a great plan. And I think that's good timing. And especially what you said too about having backup plans, and you're in a great spot to be able to raise capital if you can or want or find the right partners, but also keeping your options open a little bit. I think that's definitely a good place to be. So best
Yeah,
of luck with that.
thank you. And we're going to do it after Labor Day because we know a lot of VCs like the summer in Europe. I won't be one of them, but
Yeah, me
I hope
neither, but it must be nice. Yes, we've
must
heard
be.
that too, allegedly. VCs take the summer off. But awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me. It was really good to spend this time together, and excited for everybody to learn a little bit more about Lighthouse AI.
Appreciate it, Casey. Thanks for the support as always.